Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jay, and this is Conversations on Purpose for the Global Coaching Academy. Well, I would like to officially welcome Miss Susanne Madsen to the show. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me all the way from Australia.
Yes, absolutely, all the way from the UK, which is really
Yeah.
nice to connect. And I mean, on that, Suzanne, I stumbled across your work because I'm preparing for ACC exam, and I
Yes.
found one of your videos on that. And then I went on a little Suzanne Madsen journey down a rabbit hole, and I was like, oh wow, this lady is doing really awesome work. So what I know of you, besides the
Yeah.
awesome work, is that you are internationally recognized project leadership coach, a trainer, and also a consultant. And you're also an author of 2 books or 3 books.
That's right. And you know what? I've gone in a different room in my house and I didn't even bring my copies of my books. But yes, that's right. There's 3 out there, and so maybe we can help people imagine. But yes, I have a Power Project Leadership book, which is now
Yep.
in second edition. It won an award from the PMI, which is important in the project management world. And then I
Nice.
have a more personal development book, which for coaches I think is very interesting. It's called How to Do the Inner Work, which hopefully we'll get to talk about today also, which is much more about the patterns that drive us and some of the deeper stuff.
That's the one that stood out to me. I was like, doing the inner
Yeah.
work. That was when I was, on that rabbit hole. I was like, wow, doing the inner work, because we love the inner work here at the Global Coaching Academy. That's, a big part of the course that we do is all that introspection and ongoing reflective practices and all that. So definitely want to touch in about that book. And that's your latest one, right?
It is, yeah. Came out last year. But I've just an hour ago had a conversation with my publisher about a third edition of the professional the project leadership book, how to go from project manager to project leader. The Power of Project Leadership. So it's a big job to do a new book. It's also a big job to do a second or a third edition because it's a proper thick,
Yeah.
well-researched book.
Yeah.
That the other one, the Power Project Leadership. So yeah, I think in the future there will be a third edition at some point. I'm not making any promises as to exactly when.
What does that entail exactly? When you say a third edition, do you just update information in there, add a few things that you've learnt since the previous edition? Is that the process?
Yeah, it sounds very easy, but in essence, it's a complete review of everything. That's how I do it. It's been a while since I did the second edition. So we also do a whole new cover. Everything is being updated. I need to contact everybody who contributed to the book because I have many other voices in there, and then update it with all the new statistics, all the research. It's quite comprehensive, and they're like 20% new content as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. Pretty much like
It is.
writing another book.
It is. Yeah.
Wow, you must be doing something right, my friend, if you're looking at a third edition and you have these other books as well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to tell myself, it is a privilege, and I am very privileged, and it is actually it's a privilege to be asked to write a book. It's a privilege to be asked to write even an update of that book because it means that people are finding benefit from it. It's selling. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. So yeah.
That's beautiful. And how is that for you to actually be in that position where your work is obviously touching people? It is out in the industry and people really appreciate that. How is that for you personally, Suzanne, to be in that position?
Initially, when I wrote my first book in 2012, it's actually the project management coaching workbook where I combined how to coach yourself to become a better project manager. I think it's since gone out of print. It still exists in electronic format. I said to myself, it's just if just one person comes back and says that this book has helped them, it will be worth it. And of course, it wasn't just one person. Actually, it did quite well, that book. And so it mattered to me. I think now I don't need that external validation as much. Of course, when I run a training program, I need to know that it's adding value because otherwise there's no point me being there. If
Sure.
I coach somebody as well and they're not moving forward, then it's not an effective coaching relationship. And so maybe I'm not the right coach for them, or maybe it wasn't the right moment for them. Maybe they need something different. So that's not satisfactory. So I do need to know that we are making progress because that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. but I don't think it builds me up in the same way as it used to, because it's not like I don't know if that makes sense. I need to know that we're making progress, because then I know that I'm doing a good piece of work. But it's not
Yeah.
like I'm walking on clouds anymore. It is what I do, and that's how it is.
Yeah, that makes total sense. There's a huge difference between looking outside for that external validation and just needing to know that your work is actually doing what you intend it to do and is adding value to people's workplaces and lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, people often ask, "What is coaching? What am I going to be coached on?" And I'm like, "Well, it's all about you. It depends what you need. It's not about me. I'm not teaching you. I can teach, but coaching is not teaching. I'm not teaching you. There may be a point in a coaching conversation where they're a bit lost, and I can give them my perspective if it's appropriate, or I can point them in directions that they haven't thought of. But that's not the primary purpose. The primary purpose is to get them to look inwards, to get them to find their own answers, to get them to feel empowered. Yeah, so it's all about them, really.
I love hearing that, Suzanne, because not everybody out there understands that coaching really is so client-centered and it's absolutely about them. It's seeing that person as someone that already knows the answers, and our job is just to facilitate them to
Yeah.
get to that point of clarity. So that's, yeah, wonderful to hear you sharing that. And there's a lot of confusion out there between the difference between training, consulting, counseling, coaching as well. And some people really think coaching is like more sporting coaching, where the coach is telling the student how to do whatever
Yeah,
it is. But
exactly.
it's different in this, interpersonal coaching.
Yeah, and I run a lot of leadership programs, and a lot of those managers and leaders that I coach, we talk about the coaching as a leadership style.
Huh?
And they exactly like you're saying, they initially think that coaching is, oh yeah, I coach them, I tell them what to do, I pay attention to them, and I take them under my wing. But that's not coaching the way we understand it. That could be actually just mentoring them or telling them what to do, which is completely different.
Yes, appropriate in some circumstances, but not
Yeah,
coaching. So it's really
yeah,
important, and I love people that have that understanding and they're putting that information out. I just, this is my coaching hat, this is
yeah.
consulting hat. They're two different things. Yeah. So I'm curious to know, what was it like for you growing up? What sort of child were you? Because it seems like you're really entrenched in this work and you have been for a while. So what were you
Mm.
like growing up? Were you like 5 years old and like, I'm gonna coach people. I'm a leader. Did you know that
Oh
that
my
you were a
God.
leader? How was it for
You
you?
know, I don't actually, I didn't know that coaching existed until I was well into my career. And I'm not even sure I see myself as a leader, although my managers called me a thought leader, but I think that's different. But no, I was always somebody who enjoyed growth. Personal and professional development has always been my thing. And I think even as a kid or as a teenager, I like to take in school, I like to take complex topics and kind of distill them. What is it? What is this really about? What's the essence? And
Mm.
even when I coach somebody, they're all over the place. They have all these issues or things that, they're not really sure. It just, everything is a mess. And I like to put order in that. So order in chaos is one thing. That's what project managers do. It's also, in a sense, what coaches can help do. But also with my books, I realized that a lot of it is taking something which is complex, because life is complex, people are complex, projects can be complex, and try to make it, not try to overcomplicate it, but actually say, what's the essence here? What do we need to do? Let's just not dumb it down too much, because then we may lose the essence, but actually, what is this all about? What's the essence? What do I need to do? What can I gain from this? What's the insight I take from this? That's what I like to bring to the table.
Was that curiosity always there growing up, or was that something that grew?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
What was
always
you?
encouraged to play on my own. My mum always said, I don't want my kids to be kids that need to be entertained all the time. They need to be able to play on their own. I don't know if that was of that generation, but I'm definitely self-motivated. And some people need that external counterpart. I'm self-employed. I've worked for myself now for 13 years, which was a big shift from having had a corporate role. And many people, they can't sustain themselves as an individual running a business, either because they get bored with their own, just on their own, or they don't have enough clients or for other reasons. But I think I have that self-motivation to just, I'm there's some fire inside and it's actually always
Mm.
burning, for which I'm very grateful.
It's very obvious there's a fire in there and that you're a go-getter. That's very obvious.
Yeah,
And
jump out of the bed in
and
the morning.
yeah, oh, that's great. That's great. And yeah, a lot of people, they lose that zest for life once they hit adulthood
Yeah.
for, a combination of reasons. But obviously, you are doing something that you're meant to be doing, your heart's singing with that. And I guess coaching can often be about that, is helping people to find purpose, and find, how they can live a more fulfilling life. So that's great. And you have worked at some of the biggest places, organizations in the world, JP Morgan, Philips, Lego, and more. And you've just been in the industry for so long. So I'm curious to know, what are the main qualities that make a great project leader?
Yeah, and just for the record, some of those names I have are clients of mine,
Uh-huh.
and others I have worked for. So just
Okay.
but the experience, I guess, is still there. So I went to Shanghai to actually train Philips.
Ah,
I went to Denmark to run sessions for Lego, which is a great honor because I'm actually Danish. And when I was about just fresh out of university, I tried to become a trainee for Lego, and I think I was one of the last two, and I wasn't chosen. So the fact that they've
oh,
invited me back later in
yeah,
life to actually run some programs for them has been amazing.
that's
But I
cool.
never worked for them. But I did run projects for JP Morgan. I worked for Citigroup and some other big organizations. Yeah.
Nice. A full circle kind of there with the
Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
back to your question. So I think what are the characteristics of great leadership? And I think because I have this global exposure, it's actually very similar all over the world. People think that if we work in automotive in Asia, it's different than working in technology in Europe or something. But it's very much the same themes. And what I might highlight as the most foundational is that ability to take a step back and just detach a little. Not detach is not the right word, but observe what is happening.
Mm.
Because many of us, we are on autopilot, and it goes for leaders and managers too. We do what we've always done. We manage and lead people the way we've always done. We respond and react to situations the way we've always done based on our patterns. So I get triggered by something you say. If you haven't done your work, I might get angry, or I don't know, it could be anything. So a great leader is somebody who can actually step out of that autopilot with themselves, observe what is going on. How am I bringing myself to this situation? What kind of leader am I in this situation? Because it's situational, and we lead through from conversation to conversation. So how am I showing up right now? How am I showing up with this team member? How am I showing up with this group, with this entire team? What am I feeling right now? What are they feeling? What does the moment call for? And that's so fundamental, because if I don't have that ability to have an internal pause button and take a step back and assess, then I could be running blind and just doing things on autopilot, not noticing, not being able to pause. Pausing is important.
So pausing, and in that pause, correct me if I'm wrong here, what I'm hearing you say there, Susanne, is within that pause, you can, I guess, become more consciously engaged or aware of what's actually going on, instead of just patterns from the past. You can get a clearer snapshot of what's actually
Right.
going on, not running on emotions or thoughts
Right.
on previous moments.
And to make it more specific, maybe for people listening, what question can I ask now? Because leadership is also about the right questions. Coaching is, and leadership is also. Because when I often distinguish between management and leadership. And when we are these managers, and it's a black and white thinking, it's not as simple as that, but it makes it simple to say this: management is different than leadership. So management can be very task oriented and telling people what to do. It's more like transactional. So, and if I'm in that mode, it's a very different mode to what question can I ask now to empower the other person to find their own answer? Or what does my team need right now? What is going on? I sense something. We have an issue with a technical problem, let's say. But what is this really about? It might not be about the technical issue at all. It might be about something else, something more deeper, some patterns, some emotions, some pride, some hurt feelings. It could be anything. And in that pause, I can notice what that moment is calling for. Yeah.
So that pausing, key component to leadership, successful leadership.
Yeah.
Is this what you do, Suzanne, you go into organizations and work with leaders, people who are already in leadership, and just help refine their skills, or do you get called in when there's an issue? What is your actual role?
So mostly it is running some leadership training. And on the back of that leadership training, I do one-on-one coaching with the participants to make sure they embed it into their day-to-day work, to make sure that their particular patterns, I fall short of calling it issues, but that their particular situation can be addressed. Because some people, they need to work on their assertiveness, they need to set better boundaries, and other people, they need to tone down, they need to increase their sensitivity. Most people, we all need to work on our emotional intelligence. So yes, I do that, do a lot of individual work and also group work. I'm not called in when there's a crisis. That's not really my specialty.
So as well, the word empowerment jumped out when you were talking a
Yeah.
moment ago, and I feel that's such an important point when it comes to leadership, because I feel there's a lot of people out there in leadership who feel the need to control and micromanage. It just feels like a completely different outlook and attitude to be coming from a place of, oh, I trust my team and they know what they're doing. How can I empower them?
Yeah, it's very different.
Completely different attitude.
Yeah. And that is a shift that many need to make. Not completely, because control is a funny word, because we do want to be in control, but it doesn't mean that we are controlling.
Okay, sure. Makes
Because
sense.
if I'm a manager, I need to be in control of what is happening. I need to know how much money we're spending. I need to know where people are, where my team members are allocated to. I do need to be in control as such, but it doesn't mean that I need this tightrope. It doesn't mean that I need this kind of breathing into people's necks and micromanaging them. It's not the same thing. I can be in control whilst knowing that my team is empowered. I think that is possible. I think that's the only way, because top CEOs, then they don't know all the detail, and they shouldn't know all the detail, but they are in control in the sense that they know who is doing what, and they have very good people working for them who are empowered to make decisions. So that's the way I think of it. Yeah.
Through having a trustworthy team, a competent team, the CEO through that is managing, or leading from the top. Yeah.
Which of course is much easier said than done. And that's the work. This is lifelong. I mean, there's very few people are perfect leaders. I mean, I don't even, because it's about people, and it's about, it encompasses so much. Leadership encompasses so much, from what is happening inside of me, what's happening out here, what does the market need? It's also about vision. There's also some very hard, tangible targets. You know, I talk about yin and yang in leadership a lot. So the yin in leadership is the supportiveness. I need to have this sensitivity, this emotional intelligence that helps me to support my team members, to empower them, to believe in them, to build them up. But that's not all. The other side, we have the yang, we have the more masculine, the more demanding, holding people to account. And some people have difficulties with these extremes, but when we have these extremes together, it's very powerful, because any leader needs to be able to hold people to account. We should not let people get away with mediocre deliveries or promising things they're not delivering, and holding them account to their own standards. That's very important. When at the same time we hold them, we support them, and we understand why things are the way we are. It's very powerful. We need to access both of those. We need to be the feminine, and we need to be the masculine, to put another word on it.
It feels in ages past, it's been a very masculine dominated role in the past, and has sometimes lacked that more compassionate, receptive, supportive, those more feminine qualities. But I can see how the balance is really important for anyone who's going to lead successfully.
Yeah. And you know, from myself, I'm just this is coming to mind now, because I've been a project manager in technology in finance. That's pretty male oriented. And I think I know that I took on some of those characteristics, and I was, quite, I wouldn't maybe use the word hard hitting, but could be quite transactional, or quite driven, certainly quite driven. Determined as well. Yeah, I think there are many words we can put in there. And then when I began to study coaching, when I got onto my coaching path, I thought, oh my God, I've got it completely wrong. Leadership is not about just telling people what to do and just driving and pushing the deadlines hard. That's what I see others do who I coach now. I thought, you got it completely wrong. So I became very supportive and embraced that more yin side. And then I thought after a while, but I've got it wrong again. I've gone from one extreme to the other. But when you go to the extremes, you can combine them and you can do both at the same time. And that's really what I'm advocating, being able to be both.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Much needed in the world, in all industries, really, and across the board. Yeah. Emotional intelligence. Now, I've heard you say that a couple of times already. How important is that when it comes to leadership? And also, how does that help with managing a team, but also conflict resolution and things like that?
Well, emotional intelligence is really the big factor here, because if I'm task oriented, I'm just pushing, I want to be in control. I'm really leading through tasks. I have a plan or target, and I have some resources, as we sometimes call those wonderful team members, who need to help me do that. And there's not much emotional intelligence in that necessarily. It could be there's a lot of cognitive intelligence, that's fine. But the emotional intelligence piece is so crucial for the leadership, because leadership is about the people, it's about connecting, it's about building a team where we can actually collaborate and work together. We have expectations of each other. And the big thing I see is that when I'm forming a team, could be any team, but everybody leads teams. I mean, change happens through teams. I think most people are part of a team. So, and we need to do something in this team. We need to deliver something. And we know what we need to deliver, but we're not talking about how we're going to collaborate. We're not talking about what we expect from each other. So if I turn up late to a meeting, what happens? If I'm not able to come, what happens? Do I send somebody else? If we disagree, what are we going to do? How do we make decisions in this team? How do we want to treat each other? What are the values of this team? Everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't say that trust is important. But how are we going to build trust? So all of that piece, all of that is what really good team building is all about. That's what a leader is there to do, to form that team, to help that team gel and connect and collaborate. But how can we do it without putting words to it? How can we do that without addressing it? How can we do that if we only focus on the targets and expect that people magically are going to work together? It's not going to happen. So the emotional intelligence piece really helps us with verbalizing and noticing what is the dynamic of this team. How can we enhance the dynamic or change the dynamic? How can we improve trust? What is it that we're not saying in this team? I feel this frustration. You are frustrated with that person because somebody said something that hurt the other person, or you weren't acknowledged, or that person didn't do their work, so you took over, something like that. It always happens. It's normal. It happens in families. It happens in friendships. That's humans. But if we don't address it, it will just mushroom. And I think people are used to the frustration. People are used to working in teams with all this frustration. They go home and like, oh my God, I just can't deal with it anymore. And oh my God, and Peter said so, and Anne did that, and oh my God. But that's where the emotional intelligence, to come back to that core theme, comes in. Because if I'm an emotional intelligent leader, I can notice, what is it doing to me? Maybe I get angry too. Maybe I get anxious or tense. Am I just bringing that into the mix? Or can I stand back and look at what's the dynamic in my team? Can I help them address that? Can we put words to it? Can we talk about what's happening? So that's why it's so crucial, because it's about people. Leadership is about people. That was a long-winded answer.
No, I love that. It's not just about the task. It's about the people. And I just love the maturity in that, Susanne. And there's a lot of people out there that would or do struggle with that sort of transparency and authenticity with regard to, oh, that hurt, or when you said this or you did this came up for me. So I feel it just feels so healthy with what you're talking about. And I'm sensing that's also about the culture that you want to bring into the workplace as well. But it just feels so helpful to be able to have a team and cultivate that trust and that safety between each other, where you can just really be open about what's going on and what I need. And because everybody's coming from different backgrounds, and even words can mean totally different things to different people, and that can cause issues. So when you were sharing there, I'm like, yeah, that just feels like a very healthy, integrated family, team, friendship. It's a model that could be used really anywhere in life. So that's really, really beautiful that's what you're teaching and sharing. Just really nice to hear.
Yeah, and it's not easy. That's why it's good to get some support, because we don't learn it in school.
Yeah.
Actually, I did a little mini webinar series with a colleague of mine And we were talking about emotional intelligence, and people can find that series on YouTube. But I thought, we're becoming more emotionally intelligent because kids in kindergarten, sometimes they're being taught to apologize to Joe because you stole his toy and, whatever, tell him how you feel. But we had the conversation. My colleague disagreed with me. She said, no, and we did the research. We're actually becoming less emotionally intelligent because we're spending more time in front of the screens and we use this one, right? And our
Yeah.
interactions are much more transactional in that sense. So
Mm.
so we don't learn it. We don't learn this piece about noticing the emotions and speaking to it and talking about what we expect from each other. It's not necessarily easy.
Yeah, completely different day and age now. And I just want to touch on there. I've heard you say transactional a few times. What is that with regards to coaching and leadership? What are you actually talking about there? Can you break that down? I know what transactional is, but with
Yeah.
regards to what you're speaking on.
So transactional means that you have a job and you get paid for your job, and I need you on my team. So I'm giving you a task, and I expect you to. So the transaction is I give you work, and you complete that work for me. It's a
Uh-huh.
transaction, and you get paid for it. It's a transaction. I expect you to show up, and I may expect you to get through a certain amount of work in a day. It's a transaction, straight through transaction.
And that's removing, or it's absent of the emotional intelligence and the person or the interpersonal component.
Yeah,
It's
in
just
the purest sense it is. I have been running some training programs for Electrolux. You may not know them in Australia. They used to be called Zanussi. They create white goods. So they have a factory in Italy where they used to produce 10,000 washing machines a day. So
whoa.
biggest factory. It's incredible.
Oh,
10,000. And I've been on a tour in there because they were very kind to show me around. My curiosity I was like, yeah, I've
whoa.
seen robotics and I love it. I can't get enough. And all these washing machines standing there spinning because they need to stress test them. So they're washing constantly. Anyway, they have people on the assembly line, and it's transactional. You
Mm.
need to get through a certain amount per day, and this transaction, I pay you for it. It's just that image just came up, and that is very different from the transformational side that we talk about in leadership, where if you work for me and my team and I'm a transformational leader, I don't just expect you to do the work because you come to work and I pay you. I want to give you something as well. I want you to grow. I want you to feel
Mm.
empowered. I want you to do more with what you have. So Liz Wiseman wrote a book called The Multipliers, and she uses this term that good leaders multiply the smarts of others.
Mm.
So 2 plus 2 is 5. You get more out of people because you inspire them, because you draw the best out of them, because they see the purpose in what they're doing, and it becomes transformational because you actually have a transformational effect on them. It's a win-win situation. And people walk home at the end of the day feeling fulfilled at work, not depleted. Well, sometimes you can be both, right? You can be tired and you can be fulfilled. But I think for me that's what the difference is between transactional and transformational.
In hearing you say that, if I was on the receiving end of leadership like that, then it would make me just want to do better and want to work at that place and want to serve that person, their vision, and just do my best.
Yeah. And as an employee, you will feel seen. Hopefully you will feel seen by
Seen,
that
that's
person.
it. Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
they always say about great leaders? When you're with them, you are the most important person in the room. And that is not easy. That's not easy because sometimes we do look at our watch and we are waiting for somebody else to enter the room. So it's not easy to give people your full attention, but that quality of being present with somebody and really hearing them. I said before that great leaders ask great questions. They also listen. And of course, as a coach, we can see some parallels here. It's about that quality, the quality of the interaction I have with another human being. How can I really inspire a team member? How can I really help a team member grow if I'm not listening to them and trying to understand their inner world? Yeah.
It's impossible. Yeah. It it reminds me, Suzanne, of I read somewhere the difference between Hitler and Churchill, and they said those around Hitler would always get the impression that he could do anything, but the people that were around Churchill would get the impression that they could do anything. It's the vastly different
Right.
experiences. Yeah, so it's
Right.
like he was
Yes.
more empowering, and people came away thinking, "Oh, actually, I can do it, anything." Whereas
Yeah.
in the other camp, it was like, oh, he can do anything.
Yeah, it's a good analogy because the super manager is somebody, I sometimes talk about this superhero mentality. You know, I fly in and I save the day and I have all the right solutions and I put the agenda on there and because I know better than you. That's not leadership. That is this misunderstood super manager. And sometimes it's required in a crisis situation. Somebody just flies in and sorts it out. But for a real team experience where we fire on all cylinders, meaning that every team member is working optimally, if such a thing exists. In the ideal world, it does exist. Then yes, I'm empowering others. I don't have all the answers as a leader.
I love that. And it also reminds me of this Zen story that I read, which was a master went to a village. The village was really struggling on lots of levels, professionally, personally, spiritually. And this is what a master does. They go there, resolve all the issues, and leave, and the village thinks they did it all themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like going in there and
Yeah.
doing what needs done, but not in a way of, like you said, super manager, super leader.
Yeah.
It's doing it in a way where people are empowered and they actually think it was all them.
Yeah, exactly. What we say that when things go well, the leader looks out of the window, and when things go badly, they look in the mirror, they look themselves in the mirror. Yeah, they take responsibility. Yeah.
That's
And
brilliant.
and a bad leader will do the opposite. I might not even
Hmm.
call them a leader, but yeah, if you're a very disempowering manager or leader, you look out of the window when things go wrong. Wasn't me, and so
Yeah.
it's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard you talking about the phones and the technology there as well, you know, with the connection and well, intimacy, I see it as where a lot of us struggle with intimacy because on the screens. And I can't remember the context you said it in. What were you saying, Suzanne, about the with the technology or the emotional intelligence,
I was just
struggling
saying
to
that we're
develop
becoming less
that?
emotionally intelligent because we're using our phones so much. Well,
Yeah.
not the phones, but we're interacting through screens. Yeah.
And that brings me to my next question, because with all of these technological advances, there is
Mhm.
people that are leading large teams globally or even, you know, interstate. And a lot of the times they're not even going to meet those people in person. So what do you or how do you encourage people to cultivate trust and safety and connection from a distance when there's so much done on Teams and Zoom and online platforms now?
Yeah. My biggest client is a semiconductor firm. So they produce chips and they are truly, truly global. So they have, and I coach them all over the world. So China, India, all over Europe, all over the US. And sometimes they have teams with Chinese and US people at the same time. You know, they're opposite ends of the time spectrum there. So it's very
Yeah.
hard for them to connect. So my answer is that we do the same things with a virtual team as we do with a physical team. We just have to work harder at it, and we have to be more conscious because it's not coming automatically. If you sit all of you in one space, you see each other, you go for lunch together, you absorb by osmosis. So you hear what they're saying, even if you're doing your own work, you kind of gel. Hopefully, you spend a lot of time together physically. That doesn't mean we're building trust, though. Even if we're sitting in the same room, we still need to do something consciously. So when people sit on opposite ends of the globe, we need to ask them to switch on their cameras when they're on conference calls. And we need to have specific sessions, as I mentioned before, where we talk about what's the team experience we want. What are the values in this team? Well, we all value trust. Okay, what are the behaviors that we want to show each other in order to build that trust? Because again, I don't expect the manager or leader to come with, this is the recipe for how we build trust. No, I'm the facilitator. I ask the
Mm.
questions and I ask all the team members, um, I want you all to think about a time when you worked in a team and it was not a good experience. Please share that. Let's go around the table and just share it. Now I want you to think of a time when you worked in a wonderful team, a beautiful team. Share that experience and share what the difference was. Because then each team member begins to think about the experience they want on the present team. And then we can have a conversation about what does that mean? What do we need from each other? Well, on the team, I was on a team 3 years ago and we helped each other out. You know, it was really wonderful. If somebody couldn't complete their work, the other one helped because we had complementary skills. okay, is that something we want to do on this team? Is that going to help us build trust? So we need the conversation. And when we are present in the same room, we also need the conversation, but maybe it's easier when we are physically present. Now I need to facilitate it, to find a time that works for everybody online, we cannot have half a day because it's too exhausting online. So maybe we do 90-minute session. 2 weeks later, we do another 90-minute session, and I facilitate it, or I ask another person to facilitate it because maybe I'm not so confident doing it myself. But we do need to have the conversation. So it's the same things that we need to do, whether we're virtual or not, but we need to be more deliberate at building those human connections and building that sense of belonging to the team. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yes. And I heard the word conversation many times through there. It's amazing what a conversation, how that can help, just opening up and speaking about what's happening for self or what you're sensing in others in the room. It just it just feels very helpful and a healthy way to operate.
Yeah. And of course, there are tools that go with it. There's something called a team charter team charter. People can download it from my website. It's just all those questions that I would recommend that somebody asks in that context. What are our values? How are we going to make decisions? What are our ground rules? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? That's maybe more familiar for people. Let's start there. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What's the team's purpose? There's a whole lot of things we can ask. What do we want to give our team a name? How are we going to celebrate successes? So there's a good mix of questions that we ask, and together we come up with the answers. Yeah, that's a good start, a very good start, very important. Many people don't do it because it's outside of the comfort zone. It's more comfortable to talk about deliverables.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So have you got those tools and resources available somewhere? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, download for free on my website. People don't even need to register. I've stopped building up. So I won't even know if people are on my website downloading it. So it's all free.
I'll put all those details, with your permission, of course, Susanne, in the description below. Now, let's talk about the inner work. Doing the inner work, that book, what inspired you to write that book, and just tell us about your journey personally with inner work and also bringing that as such a key component to leadership and coaching and that side of things.
Yeah, and thank you for asking the question, because this goes a bit deeper. Yeah. And I wrote the inner work book for, I think, two main reasons, for myself and for others. We always write the books that we want to read ourselves or need to write. For others, because I've done a lot of coaching, almost 15 years now of being a coach, an executive coach. And good coaching always ends up somewhere deep. Okay, you can do skills coaching. You can coach people at a surface level, you give them some strategies. That's okay. But real transformation coaching, we go quite deep. We look at patterns. We look at what it is that happens for them, why it happens, how to change it, what's really going on for them. And so I felt there was a need for something deeper. There are the 24 exercises in the book, How to Do the Inner Work. So it guides them beautifully through that. And the other thing, I get a lot of people who feel overwhelmed. They work too much. They can't say no, can't set boundaries. They feel so obliged to work hard. It's hard to ask for help. And basically, corporate jobs today are challenging. You get loaded, you get loaded, you get loaded. The workload never ends, never, never, never ends. And so if I don't learn to set my own boundaries, I will probably burn out. And so I felt also with the inner work that I needed some resources to hold people's hands who felt overwhelmed. It's a short book. It's like 150, 160 pages. I can't remember. But I didn't want to write a massive book like my other books. If somebody feels overwhelmed, they're not going to read a 300-page book. So that's why I wrote the book, to give people some tangible tools to how to stop drowning and how to begin to look at the deeper patterns. How can I slowly but surely begin to turn that ship around so that I float in the direction that I want to? Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not about getting from drowning to being on top of a mountain within 30 days. It's about slowly but surely taking the steps. First, you need to stop what it is that is exhausting you. And then we need to begin to look at what is it that inspires you? What is it that gives you purpose? And how can we slowly begin to integrate that? What is it that gives you energy? How can we slowly begin to give you more energy on a daily basis so that you have the energy to even look further ahead. So in the beginning, it's just short term, just managing my nervous system right now. And then, oh, I feel better. Great. Now you're able to think further afield. If somebody's drowning and they're overwhelmed, they can't think about where they want to be in 2 years from now. It's too far. And I wrote it for myself. Also, I think that's your question, because I also have a journey. I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey from being, let's just say, hard-hitting project manager in finance to embracing all of this emotional intelligence, noticing my own emotions, being with other people, holding people in their coaching sessions. So when I started working for myself about 13 years ago, I finally had time to work with a psychotherapist. Because before then, I was very, you're away from home for 12 hours a day. So I worked for 2 years with a psychotherapist where I was in therapy. And it really helped me to notice my emotions. It really helped me to become more emotionally intelligent myself. What was going on inside? Why did I sit there with a smile and say that it was tough? She said to me, there's not really congruence. I see that you're smiling, but you're not telling a very happy story. Why are you smiling? Well, because somehow makes me feel better. I don't know. So all of that was picked up in my therapy. Really, this mirror. Coaching also is a mirror that's being held up when you get coached. But this was really powerful for understanding my emotions better. And then interestingly enough, I stopped working with her. And then during the pandemic, 10 years later, I started working with her again because the pandemic was very emotional for a lot of people. At that point, I'd been traveling, running workshops all over the world, almost traveling every week. I was exhausted, actually. And I hadn't had time to process my emotions. So the second time I worked with the psychotherapist, it really helped me again to dive deeper, to process some stuff that I hadn't had time to process. And all of that means that I can go deeper with my own coaching clients because I can face my emotions now. I know my emotions. I'm friends with my emotions, whether it be anger, worry, sadness. I can be with them. And that means that I can be with my clients' emotions too. It doesn't faze me. And I think that's a long answer to your question, but there you go.
I love that, Susanne. And how have you seen that influence your work and the work that you do since starting that inner work journey yourself?
Well, people open up, obviously. I can hold them properly. And also, I do quite a lot of public speaking. And it's very easy to go on stage and talk about strategy. It's very easy to go on stage and say you need to do 1, 2, 3 in order to go from being a project manager to a project leader. It's harder to go on stage and bring up some of this inner work because it's more, it doesn't connect with everybody. Not everybody's there ready to think about their patterns. But that's where I'm going with this. I want to bring this out more because there is a need for it. And so it's made me more courageous. And actually, in the introduction to the Inner Work book, I write some very vulnerable stuff. I write about some of the issues I had when I was a teenager and some of the patterns that I had. Why was I overworking myself? Why did I feel I need to prove myself? Why did I almost face burnout? It's the same patterns as I see other people have. And I've come clear on that. Because when we can talk about it ourselves, it means that it's actually behind us. We are not in there anymore. So that's been powerful for me to share that. And it just means I'm able to be more vulnerable with others and they're able to be more vulnerable with me, I think. And it's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
It's a protective shield, right? I mean, no.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about that authenticity. And there is this perception out there, I feel, with some people in positions of leadership that they need to be perfect. They always need to have the answers and there's nothing wrong ever. I've got this. And they walk around like this. And then usually life will be like, hey, there's something going on here. There's all this stuff you haven't processed. And if you don't look at it, then, usually life is pretty good at getting us into that stuff if we're avoiding it somewhere down the track. So being really proactive with that, I feel, is very, very important. And especially when we're in positions of responsibility, as we are coaching any therapist, it's a level of responsibility where caring for someone's heart, their evolution, their growth, their development, and a big part of being the best that we can be is doing the inner work from where I sit and having these reflective practices and learning about ourselves.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Very nice, my friend. I feel like we could sit here for about 10 years. It's like you have so much knowledge. It's like everything you're saying, I'm like, there's about 1,000 questions in that, which I can tell that you would have answers for. So again, I'll put all your details in the description, your books, your website, all of that. Wonderful work that you're doing, Susanne. Before we start to wrap up, is there anything else that you feel to bring for viewers and people out there? Because you obviously have a lot to offer on lots of levels. So is there anything else you want to share about your journey, coaching, leadership?
I think what I would say is just ending on a positive note. It's all been very positive, but giving the listener maybe this gift of knowing that they can change. Circumstances can change. I see it all the time. I am a testimony to that. Not that I was in dire straits previously, but I changed from being an overworked corporate manager to being somebody who really thrives, and I'm working with my passion, and I'm in a very good place. I actually feel peaceful, and it is possible to change. It is possible to get out of that stress state. We need to be conscious about that. It doesn't happen automatically. We need to become clear on what we want, why we want it, and coaches, mentors can help us on that path of perhaps living more authentically. It's a big word, authenticity. It's sometimes overused, but bringing more joy into my life. I think that's what it's about. How can I be more joyful? Because if we're not joyful, what are we doing? There's so much, there's too much stress. People stress too much. And I know what it's like. I've been there and I still get stressed. So that's my final message to people. You can change. Change is possible. And sometimes you don't need to change 180 degrees. If you think about a ship sailing into the horizon, if you change the course a few degrees, you actually end up somewhere very different. Yeah. But people need to seek help, perhaps. And we do need to do something differently tomorrow than yesterday if you want change. However, it is possible, very possible. Yeah.
Wonderful, my friend. There's a question I ask everyone before I wrap up, but I need to ask you something else. Can you share some tips for people out there about how you deal with stress? Because obviously you're busy and you're dealing with a whole bunch of things. How do you deal with stress in your life? What are some tips and tricks that help you with managing emotions and stress and keeping joyful?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question, and I could talk a long time about it. What I would say is, because there are short-term things you to do if you feel stress. And actually, we all carry tension. If we're stressed, we all carry tension. Could be the shoulders, could be a rapid breathing pattern, could be a crunching muscle, could be something. There will be tension somewhere. And the more conscious we become, the more we will notice where that tension sits in the body. And if you just relax the body. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I now, because I'm so conscious of it, I will notice when I'm rushing. I notice it. I might still rush for a few minutes, but I notice it. I notice my tension. And I notice that I don't like that version of myself anymore. And then I can stop and I can kind of just breathe differently, just slow down, walk slower, speak slower, because that slows my nervous system down. It's all about regulating the nervous system. The breath can do it. And the other thing I do if I feel tension is that I try to understand what is happening. So if something nags me, there's a reason. There's always a reason. Did you have a difficult conversation at work? Did you feel misunderstood? Did something happen with a friend or in your private life? What is it? Do you have too many tasks on your to-do list that you can't get through? That's a reason. And so sitting with that reason and just looking at what is happening, I feel tense. Why? Well, because I've just promised to do a third edition in 10 months, which I didn't, by the way. That could be a reason, or it could be a reason that because this friend didn't validate me or my boss didn't validate me. Okay, so that's the way I manage my stress, by going in and saying, what is it that's happening? What do I feel? I feel worried because so-and-so. Okay, go into the worry. Be with the worry. It's okay. It's okay. When I make the feeling okay, when I make my tension okay, it dissipates, because it does come up. We're all human. Of course, I get tense, I get stressed, I become insecure. Uncertainty is a difficult one for me and for many others. If I have uncertainty about something, how is this going to work out? Okay, can I be with that uncertainty? Can I breathe into it? Can I be present with it? It's hard. I know it's hard. But is it okay? It's okay. That's just how it is right now. It's okay to be here. And this is the compassion that I write about in How to Do the Inner Work. It's be compassionate with yourself. Because if we become impatient with ourselves and make our own stress bad, or my response is bad, we're making it even worse, because then we're stressed about what's happening and we're stressed about our own responses. So give ourselves some grace. It takes the edge off it. There are some of the things I do.
Well said. You have obviously done a lot of work on yourself, my friend, and all of that, I'm sure, very helpful for people watching. So thank you very much. I'm definitely going to get that book, the Inner Work book that you've written, and have a look through that. That sounds very,
And I
very, very
recorded
helpful.
it as well. So the
Did you?
audiobook is there, and I spoke every single word myself. So
You did
yeah,
it. So
I
you
did
are
it.
the one that read it. That's great. I
Did it.
love that when the author does that.
Yeah.
There's just something different about
Well,
it.
it wasn't. It's a big piece of work. So I was not going to do that. So my publisher sent me some suggested voices of. They were all American, and they were all, some of them were male, and it just felt really wrong. And so my good friend said, "You just need to do it yourself, and your vibration the vibration of your voice carries."
Yeah.
So I did it.
They're your words. It's your inspiration. It's so different when the author narrates their own book. It's so the feeling is just different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, my friend. Great. Please, if you have have you got a favorite quote or mantra that you could just share with us as well?
A quote or mantra. I do like this one, that you can live life as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is a miracle. Yeah. You can guess which one I subscribe to.
Yes, that one's very clear. That is very clear. I'm so pleased, Susanne, that I stumbled across your video, and thank you so much for being on the show. You are obviously doing a lot of great work out there. Again, I'll put all your details in the description because I'm sure a lot of our viewers here will just eat up the work that you have out there, and I highly recommend you checking out Susanne's website and all her tools and resources that she has out there.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Susanne. Much love to you. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode.